And we welcome to True Crime Lounge. I'm getting my channels mixed up. You can tell it's been a while since I did a hiatus. Anyway, I do apologize for the long hiatus. I've just been really busy between school and work in the holidays, and I honestly much needed that hiatus, if I'm being honest. But I think we've all been there, so. But today, we're going to be talking about true crime cases that actually changed the laws. It's something I've been wanting to talk about for a while. Some of these you may know, some of these I was surprised to find out. So, let's take a short break and we'll get started. Alright, the first one on our list. Adam Walsh and Code Adam. Sorry, y'all, I can't talk. Okay, so, this was a crime that rocked the country. And it was also before my time, so I was doing some research on this, y'all. But anyway, on July 27, 1981, Adam Walsh was abducted from a Sears department store in Florida. Authorities recovered his severed head 16 days later. This event led to the creation of the Code Adam program, which helps children who are lost in stores and public places get reunited with their parents more quickly. And if you remember Code Adam over a store's intercom, it means you should be on alert for a lost child or any suspicious activity. Now, when do you think the first Code Adam was used? Well, if you guessed Walmart in the 90s, then you are correct. And since 2003, Code Adam Act requires all federal facilities to use it. You may also recognize John Wash, Adam's father, who helped to get the law passed. He is the host of America's Most Wanted and helps he helps to bring the nation's most notorious criminals to justice. Next on our list, this one you probably if you haven't heard this one, you've been living under a rock. Or in a cult, maybe. But anyway, this next one is about Amber Hagerman. If that name sounds familiar, then you probably heard of the Amber Alert. So, this alert was named after Amber, who had went missing, and it also reminds us not all child abductors strike in a public place. For a more widespread emergency system involving missing children, there's the Amber Alert, which is also named after a real person, like I just said, a 9-year-old girl whose name was Amber Hagerman, and she was kidnapped and murdered in 1996, my birth year, y'all. That's kind of scary. It also reminds me, that's how old I am. And how long ago does this happen, though? 27 years. Like, I'm still 26 technically, so and so far the killer has never been caught. Enter the Amber Alert and the far-reaching broadcast the news of a missing child via television, high-rate notification sign, and text messages providing as much pertinent information as possible about the child to the little girl who lost her life. In the acronym that stands for Missing Broadcast, America's Missing Broadcast Emergency Response. Never realized that. The success of Amber Alert system had led to similar programs such as Silver Alert for missing senior citizens who may suffer from dementia and other mental disorders, and the Blue Alert, which aids police in missing in the line of duty. Next on our list is going to be the reason we have a 911 call. Next on our list, we have Kitty Genovese in 911. So the first 911 call was made in Alabama in 1968. Here's your random Jeopardy fact for today. On March 13, 1964, A young woman named Kitty Genovese was stalked, stabbed, raped, and murdered. The New York Times reported that 37 people saw the incident, yet no one reported it. Why is that? Or they may have tried to contact the police but never got through, and yet why is that? Well, to report the incident at the time, you had to dial 0 for the operator or the local police. Then the call will be transferred to a communication bureau before getting transferred to a Pacific precinct. Finally, after all that, a police officer could get dispatched to check out a potential crime. The system was not working, guys. But all that changed after Genovese's murder. In 1967, a nationwide distress hotline was replaced, and this method, and 911 was born. Anybody tell me where the first 911 call was made? And when it was made? If you guessed Haleyville, Alabama, on February 16, 1968, you are correct. Alright, next on our list, we have the Ernesto Miranda and the Miranda rights. How many of you have ever heard it? You have the right to remain silent, you have the right to attorney, if you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to you. Yeah, you basically know how it goes. So, at the time before this, raised a question, did police have the right to say this? Well, if you're a fan of crime shows and movies, you can probably recite that whole saying, am I right? Alright, but, so let's do some history behind this. Well, on March 2nd, 1963, an 18-year-old woman from Phoenix told police that she had been abducted and raped in the desert. Police tracked down the car and matched her description and found a man who had a prior record as a peeping Tom, but nothing more. So they basically just went off suspicion. Ernesto Miranda was arrested in 1966 on suspicion of robbery, kidnapping, and rape. During the police interrogation, he confessed to committing the crimes. However, that conviction would eventually get overturned. Due to what, people? Intimidating police interrogation methods. Miranda rights were created to prevent this from happening in the future. So, by law, these rights must clearly be stated during an arrest in the U.S. Now, the next one we're going to be talking about is why information about sex offenders must be public. Alright, number 5 on our list is about Megan Kinker and Megan's Law. This was created in 1996, and this requires all information about registered sex offenders to be public. So, did you want to know why this happened? Well, here's the history behind it. In 1994, Megan Kinker was just 17 years old when she was abducted from her driveway when she was riding her bike. Her body was recovered the next day in a nearby park. The guy who did it? Justin Timberdyke. The case. Guys, I'm terrible with names. I'm sorry in advance. Lived across the street from the Kankers and had 2 prior convictions for sexual assault. They did not notice, however, because it was not public knowledge. So her parents lobbied around to make this a law where they have to inform citizens about sex offenders in the area. They argued that having this would have protected their daughter, saved their daughter. So while there are some controversies about its effectiveness, this law has been in place since 1996. Again, 27 years, guys. Makes me feel old now. Next on our list is Polly Klaus in the Three Strikes Law. And basically, this happened when 12-year-old Polly Klaus was kidnapped from a sleepover and murdered in 1993. And during an investigation, it was discovered that Polly's killer had committed multiple previous offenses, and this led to three strikes law in California, which states that defendants with one serious or violent felony conviction may have their sentence doubled for a second offense. Anyone with two prior convictions must automatically serve 25 years to life. For a third felony, no matter what the severity is. Some people consider the three strikes law to be harsh, but the stipulations were softened in following a vote in 2013. Number 7 on our list is Johnny Gosch in the child abduction cases. This case occurred in Des Moines, Iowa, when 12-year-old Johnny Gosch was kidnapped in 1982 while delivering newspapers near his home in Des Moines. Unfortunately, at this time, missing children were treated as like missing adults, where parents were forced to wait 24 hours to report incidents. In Iowa, however, parents were required to wait 72 hours. But investigators found that abducted children are usually harmed or killed within the first 3 to 4 hours. Yes, even I knew that. The Gosch case was captivating the nation, and the Johnny's parents devoted themselves to getting the law changed. The Johnny Gosch bill passed by Iowa legislators in 1984, which mandated that law enforcement begin investigating missing children immediately after they're reported. Thank you. And next on our list, we're going to have a case that helps so many people. I don't see how it was public knowledge to begin with.